SpaceX Starlink direct-to-cell service goes nuclear, a $2.6 billion power move. Let's get into it. Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel. Thank you so much once again joining me. I don't have tea today, but I hope you do. Maybe a cup of coffee as we talk about space, SpaceX, Starlink, maybe a little bit of Linux and AI to throw in there. You know what? Today, we're going to really dive into this DTC thing. I've done a couple of videos about this in the past, but it's starting to get serious, guys. It is getting serious. I told you guys over a year ago that I really felt that DTC, or direct to cell, where you could communicate with your unmodified phone with a satellite, would end up turning SpaceX into, let's say, the fourth biggest telco out there. And it is happening. It is happening. I told you guys it was going to happen, and it is happening in spades as of now. Now, I did a video a few weeks ago talking about a $17 billion deal that was put together between SpaceX Starlink, Elon Musk, and EchoStar for spectrum. Basically, spectrum is the RF, or the radio frequency that you transmit, let's say, the calls or the data from. Well, they bought about $17 billion of spectrum from EchoStar a few weeks ago. And once again, I reported on that. Now they just bought another $2.6 billion of spectrum. Wow. So what does this mean for you and me? What does this mean for the carriers? And I'm going to go through a couple of articles that I read, but even more importantly, after I read through these articles, I'm going to give you some expert commentary, as I always do at the end. And I'm going to give you my take on this. And I'm going to dig in a lot deeper than what these people do superficially. This is kind of like lowbrow stuff, but it's a good intro so you know what's going on. Stay to the end and I'll give you some more details on what's going on and how this can affect you, and a little bit more geekiness to it, as I always do, because I love this stuff. I absolutely love it. I hope you do too. I guess that's why you're here. If not, you would have left already. Anyways, before we jump into this article, I just want to say that if you enjoy the video, even in the least, throw it a thumbs up. If you hate it, throw it a thumbs down. YouTube likes it either which way. Thumbs up, thumbs down, either which way. Do something. That's very helpful. Also, while doing something, put a comment down below. I want to hear from you. What do you think about all this stuff? All right? It's very important. If you don't want to write something down there because you're shy or something, that's okay. Put an emoji. At least I know that you actually watched. That is very beneficial to myself, to the channel, to the video, to everything. Put an emoji. Put anything. Once again, very helpful. Also, if you have not subscribed as of yet, consider doing so. If you have, thank you. I appreciate that. Click this little notification button over here and then click all. So when I go live or when a new video comes out, you will be notified of it immediately. And if you want to give back to the channel, you can click the little thanks button down there. YouTube gave it to us. Thank you, YouTube. Appreciate that. Click the thanks button. Give $1 or $2 if you like. If not, mandatory. It's not necessary. The video is still free, right? But if you do, it's helpful. Either which way, consider becoming a member of the channel. That would be even better. And if you want more SpaceX Starlink content, I've put together over 600 videos for you over the last 56 months. Check them out. I'll put a link here. Don't click on it yet. This link will stay there. Just rewind. All right, go back to this portion of the video and then click over there. You'll see a bunch of helpful how-tos, tips, tricks, what to do, what not to do, what to buy, what not to buy, and of course the why behind all of it, because as I always say, the channel is always about the why, not just the how. And finally, if you haven't checked out any of my merch, check it out. Go to JCristina.com/shop. Once again, JCristina.com/shop. Now that all the housekeeping is concluded, let's jump right into this article. SpaceX tightens its grip. Massive new spectrum deal. Starlink's direct-to-cell, or DTC, revolution just hit another gear. In a move that shocked the telecom sector, EchoStar is handing SpaceX $2.6 billion worth of new satellite cell spectrum. That's what we were just talking about. New RF. Awesome. One of the largest spectrum transfers ever made between two U.S. companies. The message is unmistakable. SpaceX is preparing the next evolution of global cellular from orbit. Starlink's growth is exploding and fast. Starlink's adoption continues to surge. With over 8 million active users and projections pushing past 10 million by the end of 2025, SpaceX now operates the world's largest 4G coverage footprint without building a single tower. Why? Because satellites don't need towers. SpaceX Starlink's direct-to-cell or DTC satellites already blanket 95% of the Earth's land mass, allowing 4G equivalent messaging and soon full LTE data directly to ordinary phones. Well, that's actually expanded. This article is incorrect a little bit. They're talking about only SMS type of messaging. They've already moved from SMS to MMS, which is like photos and video. So now you can use something like WhatsApp on DTC and it will work. You'll be able to do messaging, you'll be able to do any of your sending of pictures, but you'll also be able to do voice calls and video calls. Now the video calls will be kind of cheesy, kind of crappy, about maybe 240p, 360p, maybe even 480p if you're in a good area, but still you're making a video call with no cell tower from a satellite at 320 kilometers above your head. Amazing, right? Article continues. Why the EchoStar deal changes everything. The new $2.6 billion spectrum haul gives SpaceX the regulatory runway to upgrade its DTC system from SMS, MMS, calling, and video to a full-scale orbital mobile network. For the first time, a space-based telecom platform has the frequency rights needed to compete head-to-head with land carriers. This is the part that telecom analysts didn't see coming. No, they didn't. I did, though. The old telecom model is collapsing. For decades, giants like AT&T, Verizon, and T-Mobile played the same game. Fiber backhaul, towers, rooftop licenses, and billions of dollar auctions. Starlink rewrites that rulebook. With its new spectrum, SpaceX can legally transmit cellular-grade 4G and eventually 5G directly from orbit. Paired with Starlink's ISL or intersatellite laser mesh network, the result is a mobile network that ignores borders, doesn't need towers, reaches oceans, mountains, deserts, disaster zones instantly. It's a carrier killer in slow motion. The telecom giants know it. Their investors know it. Global mobile bundles are now possible. This deal unlocks SpaceX's most powerful play yet, a single global plan, DTC plus home internet plus worldwide roaming. Didn't I talk to you guys about this literally years ago? It's amazing. One bill, one network, one service, everywhere. T-Mobile partnered early because it understood the threat. International carriers will join next, not for innovation, but to avoid becoming irrelevant. The new reality for legacy telecom. The era of carriers competing with each other is over. They are now competing with a borderless, towerless, space-based network backed by the world's most aggressive launch cadence. And after this $2.6 billion spectrum acquisition, SpaceX just took another giant leap towards becoming the world's first truly global mobile carrier. Isn't that the case? So, like I've said, over many months, actually over a year, it's finally coming to fruition. SpaceX and Starlink will become the fourth carrier, let's say global carrier. And eventually, I do believe it will pass them by. Now, there's going to be a lot to have to happen for this to actually transpire, but everything is in motion. $17 billion acquisition of spectrum from EchoStar. That was just a month ago, right around there. 17 billion. It was like 8.5 billion, I believe, in cash, and then 8.5 billion in, I believe, stock, SpaceX stock. And then there was a little bit of what was left over. I think they picked up about $2 billion in liabilities, somewhere right around there, but that's not indicated on here. That's some info from me to you. But at any rate, They just picked up another $2.6 billion of spectrum of RF. So what I did is I put together, as I always do, my little commentary at the end with some points that get a little bit geekier, dig in a little bit deeper than the superficial of most of these articles do. And I think that's why you're here, right? I hope so, at least. So number one, the spectrum that they've picked up is, of course, this band 53 or N53, which is that 1.8 gigahertz to the 2.2 gigahertz range, right? A little geeky, but that's the range. The base spectrum at the very bottom end is going to be more of the MMS stuff, the SMS stuff. And as you get higher, you get into the 4G, 5G, the 2.2, and so on and so forth. So in short, this basically moves them from being like an emergency carrier, let's say, into more of an actual mobile threat, okay, to the telcos out there. Now, they've already been a threat, but this just adds to it. And I'm telling you, these carriers are not liking it at all. But it is what it is. Now, the question is how much spectrum does SpaceX really need to challenge the big three? I get that question all the time. And honestly, they don't need more than what they already have, but more is still always better. Now, they already have the ability for SMS, the lower end. They have 4G and they have some 5G thrown in there. So to be a full replacement, let's say, to AT&T, it's going to take a little bit more. Number one, they're going to need additional S-band. Right? So they need to buy a little bit more S-band. They probably need to play a little bit more in some supplemental Ka and Ku band. They probably need a little bit more of that. And they might need some integration with 5G, NR type of stuff. That's a whole leasing thing with partners and on and on. But the bottom line here is SpaceX is really not trying to wipe out AT&T, right? They're trying to build upon it and say, listen, you don't have to use AT&T. You could use us too, pretty well in most situations. Now, perfect example, if you work in a building in, let's say, Manhattan, and your office is on the outskirts and you have a window office, you'll be able to use DTC without a problem. But if you're buried in the middle of the building that's fully concrete and metal, well, you're probably not going to get DTC in the thing. That's just the way it is, all right? It's not that powerful to be able to do that. But this additional 2.6 billion is going to immediately help the rural communities out there, because now we're going to start pushing a little bit deeper into the homes. We're going to have more spectrum to do so, which is really nice. This is really nice. Now, there is a twist here, and this is the twist that you probably won't hear elsewhere. The twist is that the spectrum that is needed by SpaceX is actually a ton less than what is needed on a terrestrial type of mobile network, meaning that each satellite, each DTC satellite, is the equivalent to hundreds of towers on the ground. Now, let me back up just a second, because there's some of you guys out there that don't know what DTC means or what it is or what a DTC satellite is, all right? So DTC means direct to cell, meaning that you can communicate from an unmodified phone with a cell tower in space on a satellite. Now, how does that work? Basically, the satellite is converted from a standard Starlink satellite into a cell tower by just adding an E node B to it, or a G node B. An E node B basically is like 4G, a G node B will give you like the 5G. Basically is a modem that transforms the satellite into a cell tower. So now instead of using your cell tower up the road 2-3 kilometers, you're using a cell tower 320 kilometers in space. Get that? So the coverage area for one of these cell towers in space is about 10 to 15, 20 times greater than a cell tower here terrestrially. 10 to 20 times. So that means that they can beat these carriers with far less total spectrum, because the spectrum is now being distributed on a greater distance or a greater area, 20 times greater. So does that mean that they need 20 times less spectrum? Not really, because it doesn't exponentiate like that, but still it's close. All right. They need far less spectrum. And the spectrum that they have right now is really good enough for what they're doing. The other thing that I get, or the other question that I get is what happens with Samsung and Apple phones? I talked to you guys about that Samsung chip where Elon Musk is spending billions and billions of dollars with Samsung, and Samsung is producing these, I think, 3 to 5 million chips in 2026. These chips will be going in all phones. These chips will allow SpaceX, Starlink to communicate with the phones easier on the new frequencies that they've purchased, the new spectrum that they've purchased. The chip also does some amazing stuff because it has built-in AI, and it will lock into satellites and follow them and then know through AI when the next satellite is going to be coming to the same location so that it can immediately switch to the next satellite, once again, making things faster. So there's a lot of goodies that are involved in this new Samsung chip. And that is, once again, coming very soon. And the question was, is Apple going to do it? Now, I can tell you this, Samsung, the Galaxy S22, 23, 24, Z Fold, as well as the Z Flip, they all have that N53 built in. So it immediately can do it. With a quick firmware update, boom, they'll be able to communicate with SpaceX Starlink satellites like this, no problem. Now, Apple's a different story. Do they have the ability? Well, the iPhone 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, going forward, the answer is yes, but they need to get clearance or regulatory clearance to be able to make that firmware toggle to turn it on. Whereas Samsung is kind of already turned on, they need to turn it on. And the question was, will Apple turn it on? And I said, listen, Apple does not like Elon Musk. If they had anything to do with it, if they could, they would just use their Global Star crap DTC service, right? Global Star, which is horrendous. Anyone that use Apple, and you know, if you're in a location, they're like, oh, wait a second, turn this way, wait, turn back. There's a satellite that, hold on, don't move, don't move, don't move. Text now. You know? So that's how Apple's junk works. Whereas Elon's is like, I'm sitting in here, I'm like, yeah, making a call, even though the cell towers are down. Big difference. So a lot of you guys have asked me on the JC Live show, will Apple go down that road, even though they can't stand Elon Musk? And I said, listen, they have to. Because if they didn't, and only Samsung phones and Google phones did, Apple would lose 20%, 30% of their client base immediately. People would just leave because no one's going to want to use their crap service when they could be using something amazing like SpaceX Starlink. They're just not going to do it. Absolutely not. But as of today, here's some little insider. As of today, Apple just opened up their watch in Canada and Japan to SpaceX Starlink. You can now use it on your Apple Watch in Canada and Japan. Not in the US yet, but that just shows you the direction that Apple is going. They don't have a friggin' choice, guys. I've told you this. They don't have a choice. People are not going to stick with Apple if they do not have this chip built in where they could communicate with SpaceX. I'm telling you. Right now, a lot of folks, they don't realize it yet. But once they know, they can't unknow. And they're going to want something better. And that is just it. Period. End of story. The next generation phones going forward, though, they will all have communication built in, or let's say chips built in that fully communicate with SpaceX Starlink's RF or radio frequency by default. I promise you. I absolutely promise you. This is something, once again, Apple does not have a choice, but they wish they did. Now, the next thing I wrote down here was like, how does it affect you? How does it affect me? What is the everyday impact? Now, the 1.8 gigahertz range, or that N53, really punches through walls. But as you get higher in spectrum, it's, let's say, faster signal, but you end up having a harder time going through walls. So by having the new signal, where you have a lot of that 1.8 going into the 2.2, you're going to end up being able to get through the parking lot garages and your walls and your metal buildings, and rural homes will immediately benefit because for the most part, they're in the middle of nowhere. And now you have satellites overhead and signal comes through the shingled roofs pretty easy. Now, if you have a metal roof, well, if you're close to a window, you'll still be able to get coverage. There's going to be very few dead zones left, like for example, in hospitals, malls, things like that. You might need to be on the outer periphery still, but the signal is going to get stronger and stronger and stronger over time. And this extra 2.6 billion in RF is actually going to promote this, make it a little bit easier. Now, as for the Earth in general, as of today, with the extra spectrum, with everything that's going on with SpaceX, the entire globe is now covered by SpaceX Starlink. There is zero outage or dead zones anywhere. Let's say 98% of the globe is covered by DTC. That means if you're in a car crash or a hurricane or a wildfire or some type of remote rescue operation that happened, whatever it is, you're going to have DTC. There will be a satellite working for you overhead. No more dead zones ever, anywhere, period. That's like as of today, which is kind of crazy, That was not the way it was just a couple of years ago, guys, right? The other thing that's going to happen for you and I is that, well, the global carriers are going to have to get cheaper, right? Their prices are going to have to go down. There won't be like roaming like rates. Oh, you roamed out of this location? Well, we're going to charge you 10 times more. Oh, you're out of the country? Oh, we're going to screw you harder. Guess what? That's all gone. We'll shut you off and now communicate through a satellite and you can screw yourself. I mean, that's basically it. It's like the one plan worldwide coverage. Think about it. Carriers are forced to drop prices and get rid of all of this just old school think that they have, where they've been raping the public for countless years. And that's why I've always said, I want to see these people. I want to see one of the big guys go out of business. I think it would be poetic. I want to see one of them go out of business. And I want to see the other ones just shrink. Just like EchoStar and HughesNet and Viasat and DirecTV and all the rest of these players. Once SpaceX Starlink came with their service, it was done. I said that was going to happen 4 years ago, and it did. HughesNet and Viasat, they were raping the rural community, giving them internet for just crazy prices for shitty service, and now they're gone. Pretty much so. The same thing holds true with DirecTV and Dish Network. Pretty much gone. They're crap. They have been just rolled. They have been rolled. So the industry shockwave here is just massive, in my personal opinion. The idea of AT&T and Verizon just sweating bullets is 100% factual. The writing is on the wall. And like we said in the article, T-Mobile was smart. They saw the writing and they said, you know what, let's team up with these people immediately because they're going to roll us and we want to be with them as they're rolling the other guy. But what T-Mobile doesn't realize is that Elon Musk, SpaceX, Starlink are just using them. They're just using them for their spectrum to demonstrate that they can get this thing to work until a time came where they were able to buy their own spectrum. I told you guys this, and this is what ended up happening. Now Elon Musk owns his own spectrum. That means he doesn't need T-Mobile. He doesn't need Rogers in Canada. He doesn't need KT. He doesn't need any of the players to borrow their spectrum to provide his service globally. He has his own. Think about how big that is, guys. This is what I've been saying for a long time, and it's just crazy. It is absolutely crazy, and a lot of people haven't seen it, and now they're finally figuring it out. I mean, offering global plans is just awesome. We've said that. I mean, just having a plan that covers your phone line locally, your internet locally, and then your phone mobily everywhere. Just one damn plan instead of all of this crazy crap. It's endgame, guys. It is endgame for these people. They need to figure out what the hell they're going to do. And definitely you're going to see prices start dropping. If I was you and I was owning stock, now I'm not an investor, so what I'm saying now is from just a layman. I would get rid of the big three stock yet like yesterday. I'd get rid of it because they're going slowly shrink. They will slowly shrink. It's not going to be abrupt. It's going to be like a silent killer, just slow shrinkage. Trust me. I've said this for a while, but now it is happening. You know, the idea of skipping the $250 billion infrastructure for these towers is just gone. Now, literally, you get the equivalent of 10, 20 towers on orbit with a single launch. Boom. A single launch. Think about that. And the carriers know that. It is predicted by 2027, about 20% of the tower investment will stop. Right? And by 2030, they will not make any more cell towers. You will not see any more cell towers by 2030. The writing is on the wall. Period. End of story. You know, the internal analysts have been making these reports for about a month or two now because they're finally figuring it out. But essentially, Starlink is now the first true existential threat to the big three ever. Ever. And they're just finally figuring it out. And the reason they take so long is because they don't know the math. They can't figure stuff out. They don't understand the process, which I get. You know, not everyone's going to understand this stuff. But you do now. And you know where we're going. So now you can make choices and decisions. And that's like I said before. I'm like, look, if you want to buy a phone and you need to buy a phone like this holiday season, don't buy it. Wait until first quarter of next year. Why? Because the new chip is coming out. That chip is going to be in all phones, right? Now, they could do a firmware update, like I said in the article here, but firmware updates only get you so far. This new chip is like night and day. Absolutely night and day, because now all of a sudden the phone internally is made to follow moving towers, whereas the phone currently is made to lock in to a certain tower. You follow that? Think about that. The new chip is going to allow the phone to follow and to predict the location of the next cell tower in space as it comes by, based on your geographic location, pinpointed to the foot. Big stuff, guys. Big stuff. Anyways, I hope you enjoyed this. I hope you got something out of the video. If you have, throw the video a thumbs up. That'd be very helpful. Don't forget to subscribe, like I said before. And many blessings to you and your family. Stay safe, stay healthy, stay connected, hopefully through SpaceX Starlink DTC service. And we'll see you in the next one. Love you guys.